Hi. I'm not sure if you can hear me.
Hi,
How are you?
good. How are you doing?
Good. It's so nice to have you. My name is Zoe. Um, I'll be helping you out tonight with hosting this event and anything that happens with Zoom. I'll be here to run interference for you.
Excellent. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Oh, no problem
Um,
at all.
I just realized I've spent I'm a little okay, hold on. Let me just think of something first. I just remembered I wanted to show a film.
Oh, okay.
I can't believe I forgot I wanted to do that. And so one of the things we should do is to sort of test that, and I'm sure it'll be fine.
Absolutely.
Um, I see you're recording already. Did you want to record this?
All right. So I want to start by welcoming you all here tonight. I want to thank you for your commitment. Thank you for joining us after probably a very hectic Monday and a busy Tuesday. So thank you so much and welcome. My name is Zoe Garino. I work in the Holocaust Resource Center at Kean University. I am the Assistant Managing Director of our Restorative Justice and Education program at Kean. It is a new program. It's very exciting. Adara Goldberg is our director. And I'm so excited for this program tonight. I want to introduce Lauren Granite, and she's going to be talking about some very important topics, Centropa, very exciting. So let me just admit people in here now, and I will turn it over to Lauren.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lauren Granite. I'm the U.S. Education Director of an organization called Centropa. I'll put both the name of the organization in the chat and my email address because I hope you'll be in touch with me. I'll tell you a little bit about Centropa in a minute. But I want to thank Adara and Sarah and Elise Shane Brown, who's here from the Jewish Federation of Greater Metro West New Jersey, for inviting me to come to speak to you. We have a long partnership with them, and we're just delighted to be part of a Kean University program. Okay, so basically we've titled this evening's workshop Teaching Holocaust Herstories, Mothers, Daughters, Fighters, and Survivors, because it's really sort of a venue, a way to talk about Centropa stories in hopefully a way that'll be useful to you. My understanding is that most of you are high school or middle school, you're educators in the classroom or studying to be educators in the classroom. And I want to start by saying I am not a scholar of women in the Holocaust. What I'm here to do is tell you about an amazing resource, Centropa's resources. I'll get into that in a minute. And we're going to do that through the lens of the stories that Centropa has collected about women who survived the Holocaust and, of course, their families. And what I've focused my preparation on for you is creating easily accessible resources from our website and database, including lessons and lesson ideas and activities that you can use in class. So that's my goal. I know from everyone I talked to, I was just speaking with Zoe about this, that classroom teachers are even more overwhelmed this year than last year, and I'm hoping that by having created some of these things for you, that will be useful. Of course, you'll always have to adapt a little. So let me start a little bit by saying, why do a focus on women in the Holocaust? You know, the Holocaust is big enough, you might not have time. And as I was thinking about this, I really think there's a lot to be said for using gender as a lens of analysis to develop critical thinking and questioning, etc. So I'll start here I'm going to share my screen for a second. I went to the Holocaust Museum, the United States Holocaust Museum website to look at their article on women in the Holocaust, and I thought that this paragraph, this sort of opening paragraph to their article about it, really speaks to what this study or a focus on women's stories offers. They write, biological, psychological, sociological, and other differences left women at times more vulnerable to beatings, rape, forced abortions, and exploitation. Women with children were often killed first, but women's differences also gave them certain advantages for survival. Because circumcision did not reveal their Jewishness, women could pass as non-Jewish more readily, and women coped with hunger differently and often provided mutual support to each other in the unsanitary and overcrowded camps. That's just a little teeny idea about this idea of where someone is in society helps determine their experiences in many ways. So it is a large factor in determining their experiences. So I'm going to put in the chat that link to that article, and I recommend that you read it as background, so that you get a sense of the overview. So you have everything. You have a very diverse set of experiences, of course. And that's what we're going to go into now when I talk about Centropa. So I'm going to start by giving you an overview of Centropa's work, an oral history project, show you a little bit about the website, give you a sample of one of our short multimedia films, and then we're going to go into an activity. You'll work in groups with one another that you will be able to download and use with your students immediately, and hopefully it'll be useful for you. So I'm going to start. Let's see. I want to make sure I'm sharing the right thing here. Okay, share screen. There we go. So you all can see the Centropa website, correct? Maybe Zoe, you can give me a thumbs up. Okay, great. Okay, so we're a little bit in a pickle. I'm a little bit in a pickle today because Centropa is actually creating a whole new website. And hopefully we're going to move over to the new site in the next month or so. Meanwhile, I want to tell you a little bit about our work, the resources we have. Everything is free and accessible and downloadable on our website. So Centropa, it's kind of a weird word. It comes from basically Central Europe or Mitteleuropa, which is how you say in German, Central Europe. It's kind of a combination of those words. And it was started by the current director, Edward Serrata. Ed was a photojournalist. He's a nice Jewish boy from Savannah, Georgia. And somewhere in his 30s, he was like, I don't want to be in business anymore. I want to be a photojournalist. And he picked up and he moved to Central Europe. And he was in search of what he called the last Jews of Central and Eastern Europe. And he said the stories really came out once he set aside the camera and would go home with elderly Jews who would invite them home to their pretty shabby apartments and offer him some tea and open up their photo albums. And then he'd go back, and we're talking he'd go on back roads in Romania and Hungary and Lithuania and Ukraine and places that people weren't necessarily going, not just the big cities, but also the big cities, Budapest and Krakow, et cetera, et cetera. And then he'd go back to visit these elderly people who had been so kind to him and told him amazing stories, as he always writes, from opera singing aunts to, chess playing uncles or grifter grandfathers, all kinds of human stories. And he would go back to see them again, and they were passing away. And then he met two young Hungarian Jewish women. They were in their 20s and they were having kids. And this was about the late 80s, early 90s. This was a little bit about the late 90s. He went over there in the late 80s, early 90s. So about the late 90s, he met these two young Jewish women in Budapest. And they said, our grandparents did the interviews about their Holocaust experiences, but it's not the only thing that we want our children to know about them. And he said, well, do they have stories? And they said, do they have stories? And he said, do they have photographs? And they said, yes. He said, that's what we're going to do. And he proceeded to hire people in 15 Central and Eastern European countries, and this includes the Baltics, Lithuania, Estonia, Latvia, but also Greece, which is not really part of Central Europe, some in Turkey, the former Yugoslavia. So in 15 Central and Eastern European countries, he trained people using a very formalized oral history approach to interview elderly Jews, over 1,200 elderly Jews, about their entire life stories spanning the 20th century. Actually, these interviews took place between 2000 and 2009. So, and what made it different was he did not use videotape, and we did not focus on the Holocaust. We said, show us your old family photos and tell us your stories. Tell us what this photo is about. Who's in this photograph? And we got amazing stories. So what we have is about 25,000 digitized old family photographs, a photographic history of Jewish life from the end of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, late 19th century, through the first decade of the 21st century. It's unparalleled. I think no one has a record like this of Central and Eastern European, Central European Jewry in particular. And especially because these were people who returned to their countries or never left their countries. This is something that most don't have. I think even the United States Holocaust Museum does not have this kind of archive. And we have all these digitized photographs, and we translated over 700 of the interviews into English. You can see here we have an English language website, a German language website, and a Hungarian website, because most of the interviews took place in Vienna or Budapest. That's why we also have German and Hungarian interviews. So what we have on our website is an open, searchable database that anyone can use, and many teachers have created activities and projects where students themselves go into the database and do research, find someone to research, or they're assigned someone to research, whatever, and they create many activities that way. I'm not even going to show you how to use this website because it's going to change, but this is an example of how you might search, and you'll be able to search in the new website photos as well as interviews. If I were to take you to Poland here, I'm just going to show you what you're going to find on any given page, which you'll see later when we do an activity. So these are all the, why did it do this? I don't know why this one did this. All the photos from this country is what I want. I thought we were going there. So these are all the photos from our Poland interviews, right? These are just Centropa Poland interviews, but you can see we have 1,228. And for each one, you can go either to the photograph, and this is going to be important later. And under each photograph, there's usually a paragraph. This is a long paragraph. There's something either about this photograph or from the interview that relates to the photograph. And on every page, you can see the basic information about the interviewee, who it was, when they were interviewed, where they were born, died, etc. And then on the right, you'll see here, it goes to all the photos. And then the biography, which if we went back and you clicked on this, and this will be accessible also on the new website. I'm just trying to orient you to the various resources. You have the interview, and you can see how long this interview is, because our interviewers went back over several weeks. And one of the reasons we didn't videotape the interviews is because Ed had worked in videotape for ABC News, Nightline, and he realized that, you know how when you wake up in the middle of the night after you've done something and you realize you should have asked X question or whatever, you can't do that if you've videotaped the interview. But you can do that if you haven't videotaped the interview, and you can insert it at whatever point in the interview in text. So you can see the interviews are quite long and available. Again, everything's available to download. The photos are available to download. The interviews are available to download. Now, one thing I should say is I'm happy to entertain questions all along the way. We'll leave a time at the end. So maybe I don't know, Zoe, maybe you could monitor them and chime in if you see a question pop up. How's that?
Of course. If anybody has a question, what I would suggest, you can always type it into the chat and type it in so everyone can see the question, and we can respond as we go.
Okay.
I have a question right away.
Sure.
Is there any way that you can cut and paste that link in and put it into the chat so that we can do what you suggested?
Oh, sorry, the link to Centropa?
Yes, please.
Well,
Thank you.
That really would have been a good idea if I had thought to do that.
No, it's fine. Thank you.
so much for pointing that out. It's very easy. It's just centropa.org.
Can I ask a question, please?
Sure.
Hi, everyone. I'm pretty much under here, under false pretenses. I'm from Northumberland in the UK, and I'm a PhD student doing my PhD on women's art from the Holocaust. So I'm jutting into various different online sessions that seem to be useful. Can I ask, Lauren, is there any way with the archive that you've got to be able to search for topics within people's interviews?
You should be able to. Again, we're switching to a new website. I'm not entirely sure how it works, but you should have a search engine here. So I don't know what would happen if I put art in here. Probably anything on our website that has the word art in it. For example, we have art teachers who do lessons with our materials. So that an art lesson would probably come up. Any other mention of the word art in a photograph, in a document, in an interview would come up. That's how this website is set up, and it's my guess about the new website. And I do apologize about being in between a little bit of the websites, but that's really how this should work.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you so much.
Sure, and welcome. So, any other questions? So this is our database, and so the advantage of the open source database is you can do anything. I don't know what courses you teach. I don't know how much time you have. I don't know any of that. But to the extent that you can weave stories and photographs and images, of course, it's the lingua franca of 21st century students, right? To weave photographs into an art, from our database into an art project. We're finding we have Spanish teachers who use our resources. We have a French teacher use our resources. So I just want to one of the things I'd like to really recommend for teachers is to think outside the box. And I know you're all here to study the Holocaust through the Holocaust Center. I understand that. But I also want to suggest that there are ways to bring Holocaust stories into other things you teach. And one of the things we've learned from public school teachers in particular is when you're teaching thematically, our stories are really brilliant for addressing things like we have creative writing teachers who teach love poetry, and we have many love stories, one of which you'll see today. We have teachers who might want to teach about what's the one I'm thinking of? I'm gonna lose it now. Sorry. Any sort of thing. Oh, I know. Population disruption and migration and immigration. All of those. These are stories that you can use to open a unit, etc. Open a unit or bring in a theme. So as you look at our resources, these stories of women, I'd love to encourage you to think a little bit outside the box about how they can be used. I think it's possible to bring Holocaust stories into many, many aspects of teaching history, moral courage, love stories, etc. Okay. Having collected this database, and if there are no more questions about the database itself, I'm going to move on. No? Okay. No? I see Angel's question. Do you need to translate into Spanish? So I guess I don't think you need special permission from us, but we'd love to get that from you. That would be very useful. We're a very small organization. It costs a lot of money to hire translators, and we actually have a couple of films that are narrated in Spanish and Ladino. So I'll talk about that in a minute. So I was about to go on to that. So having this open source database allows you a lot of flexibility. And I would say that the downside is it allows you a lot of flexibility so that if you don't have time, it can be overwhelming, which is why we collected lessons that teachers have made. And I'll show you on this website where it is, but we'll also have a page there. And this page usually takes a long time to come up. Oh, it didn't. So we collect lessons from the teachers we work with. And we work with teachers in the United States, Europe, Israel. We have had teachers from Canada. We've had teachers from South Africa. We've had teachers from South America join us. So we have lots of different lessons, projects for different types of subjects. I'm going to talk about the films in a minute, so you can look up the lessons by subject. You can also, these are very specific topics. So if you wanted to teach about Kristallnacht, which is called the November pogrom in Europe, you could just click on this, and all of the lessons that teach about Kristallnacht using Centropa resources are here. These are lessons created by teachers, and then each one of these, each one of these, you'll get a summary, you'll get which one of our films it's about, and you'll be able to download the PDFs of the actual lesson itself so that you can use it in your classroom and adapt it. You know, we know you're going to adapt everything. So that's one way that might be useful for you. Also, just want to say I'm always available. I used to teach high school, history, Jewish history actually, and I'm always happy to help you, and I really know our resources. So it's a little bit of a shortcut if you say, look, I want to do this lesson on this topic, and I'm pretty sure you can help me, or Centropa would be a great resource. You know, let's talk for, 10, 20 minutes and we'll get some suggestions. Okay, so I want to also tell you about our films. Our films are what I would say really the heart of Centropa, because what Ed has done, he's a master storyteller, if I may be so bold. He's created short multimedia films that last. Our shortest one is 3 minutes, it's a story from Hungary, and we don't really use those stories so much anymore. And our longest film is 30 minutes, and it's about a woman who's on the Kinder transport, and it's fabulous. Many of our films have been shown, as you can see here, in film festivals around the world. And we have two kinds of films. One is we call it documentary films, which gives you an overview of a particular historical event or series of events. So, for example, Maps Central Europe and History is a 7-minute film that talks about the changing borders of Central and Eastern Europe from the partitions of Poland through the fall of Yugoslavia in 7 minutes. And teachers use this in many different ways. You can sign it for homework and then show it again. You can show it at the beginning of each unit, so move up to the time where you need within the time frame of the film. We have someone was asking about Spanish. This film here, El Otro Camino, 1492. I don't know if any of you have a large Spanish-speaking population or any of you teach Spanish. We had teachers from Texas and one in New York who said to us, here's a shock. None of our young Hispanic students are that interested in Jewish people from 100 years ago in Germany and Poland. It's not so interesting to them. So we said, well, we have stories of Sephardic Jews. Sephardic Jews are Jews whose families were originally from Spain. And since we did interviews in the former Yugoslavia, the Balkans, which had originally been part of the Ottoman Empire, or not originally, but earlier in history had been part of the Ottoman Empire. Many Spanish Jews fled to the Ottoman Empire, and so the people we interviewed are Sephardic Jews of Spanish origin, and their Jewish traditions are different from what we call Ashkenazi Jews. And Zoe, I don't know if you could put those terms in the chat, I'd appreciate it. Ashkenazi Jews tend to be from Northern Europe. So anyway, we made this 12-minute film that talks about the origins of Sephardic Jews, and there's a little sample in there of Ladino. Ladino is a language that's like Spanish and Arabic and a few other languages. It's kind of that Sephardic Jews speak. Very similar to Yiddish, except like a mixture that language was particular to Sephardic Jews. And this film is narrated in Spanish, and so teachers have used that. So I don't know if that's useful to you, Angel, but you might want to look it up. And so those are our documentary films. But by far our most popular films and the ones that really are the heart and soul of Centropa are our personal story films, where we take our most compelling stories and we take the photos that we digitize from the person we interviewed, and we create a 15-minute film about their life. life. And every single one of our films starts at the beginning of their life, sometimes starts with their parents' love story or their grandparents' love story, and goes towards the end, not the end of their life, but at least when we interviewed them. And that's a really important part of Centropa's approach. We really, as you heard me describe how we interviewed people, it was really important. Our original goal was actually to create an archive of Jewish memory, to preserve Jewish memory, to collect the stories of Jewish life prior to the Holocaust that no one was collecting, these stories from Central Europe. And we sort of increasingly talk about the Holocaust because we know teachers were very interested in our stories, but of course you have to fit it into, no one's teaching Jewish history in public schools to any extent. So, you have to fit it within your curriculum. And so, a 15-minute film is doable in a classroom period. And so all of these films are narrated in the original language, whether it is Serbian or German or Polish or whatever, with subtitles. Several of our films are narrated in English. This one, Return to Rivne, is narrated in English because it's the story of a woman and her cousin who currently live in Greensboro, South Carolina. It's a little bit of a different story. They are first cousins, and their parents were saved by farmers, and they all survived because they were hidden by farmers. But most of them are narrated in the original language with subtitles. What I'd like to do now is show you one of the films. I'm going to show you. Oh, I opened the wrong one. I opened the one I always open, but I wanted to show you a story of one of the women. Oh, I do want to say this though. Now that I think about it, we're going to look at this one. Rosa Rosenstein. It's a short film about a woman from Germany, and you can download the film, which I really recommend that you do. Because I don't know, internet connections, you never know, but you can see that you can access all of the other information about this person, the biography, the photos, etc., from this page. And I think it's going to be the same when you go in our new website. I want to just take a minute though, and I'm really sorry to do this. Oh, here we go. Oh, I'm so excited. I have this open. I had opened the wrong film before. I usually show a different film, but I want to keep with our theme. So can you still see this black thing, this black screen? Yes. Okay, great. So, this is, I don't know, I think it's a 7-minute film. Let's see here. Yeah, it's a 7-minute film, about a woman from Berlin. Now, I found out the hard way as a teacher that it's not really a good idea to give your students heavy duty worksheets to fill out because they're trying to read subtitles as they, take in the story and everything. So it's hard to do that and fill out a worksheet. So what I usually did when I was teaching with these is I would ask a couple of sort of general questions that students might think about as they watch. That's what I'm going to do with you now. I'm going to ask you to think about how might you use this film in your class, and are there any themes or topics that you would say, oh, this is a story, this is a film that I would show to teach X theme or X topic in the Holocaust. So I'm going to close that. I'm going to do this now. Are there any questions before we start watching this? No? Okay, great. Thanks.
Ich wurde 1907 in Berlin geboren. Wir waren eine große Familie. Ich hatte 4 Geschwister, Betty, Erna, Zilli und Arthur. Und wir blieben alle unser Leben lang sehr eng miteinander verbunden. Hier sind wir in Bad Bukow. Wir sind oft Tretboot gefahren und gerudert. Im Sommer war Bad Bukow Jahr für Jahr der Lieblingsplatz der ganzen Familie. Inmitten einer Gruppe jüdischer Freunde sind meine Schwester Betty, mein Verlobter Maximilian Weiß und ich. Michi, so haben wir Maximilian genannt, war von Beruf Schneider und kam aus Ungarn. Kennengelernt haben wir uns so. Ich habe in einem Fabriksgebäude mit großen Fenstern gearbeitet und gegenüber war eine Herrenkonfektion. Da saß an der Nähmaschine immer ein gut aussehender junger Mann. Wir haben ständig hin und her gelächelt. Eines Tages kam dann ein Bote mit einer großen Kiste bis oben gefüllt mit Konfekt und sagte, der junge Mann von drüben schickt Ihnen das. So fing alles an. Ja, und dann haben wir 1929 in Berlin geheiratet. Ende der 20er Jahre war Berlin eine Stadt mit Stil. Und hier sind wir auf einer Purimfeier und wie man sieht, waren meine Freunde und ich, wie man heute sagen würde, voll im Trend. Genau in dieser Zeit gründeten Michi und ich unsere Familie. Bessie wurde 1929 geboren und Lili 1933. Beide gingen in einen jüdischen Kindergarten und danach in die jüdische Volksschule. Die Direktorin war schon meine Lehrerin gewesen. Ich brachte in der Früh Bessie und Lili in den Kindergarten und arbeitete dann zusammen mit meinem Mann in unserer gemeinsamen Schneiderei. Meine Eltern wohnten nur 10 Minuten von uns entfernt. Zu dieser Zeit war alles wunderbar. Doch die Zeiten änderten sich. Deutschland wurde für uns Juden sehr gefährlich. Und so flüchteten wir im September 1939 nach Budapest. Mein Mann hat gesagt, bei uns in Ungarn kann uns nichts passieren. Das war 3 Wochen nach Kriegsbeginn. Meine Familie war bereits nach Palästina geflüchtet und mein Schwager schrieb, schick die Kinder, schick bitte die Kinder. Wir werden sie so erziehen, als wenn es unsere eigenen wären. Und das haben wir dann auch gemacht. Mein Mann und ich wurden in Budapest verhaftet und interniert. Michi starb 1943 in einem Arbeitslager in der Ukraine. Ich überlebte den Krieg in Budapest. 2 Jahre nachdem ich Michi verloren hatte, heiratete ich Alfred Rosenstein. Zusammen hatten wir einen Sohn, Georg. Georg wurde 1945 geboren und 2 Jahre später sind wir nach Wien in die Heimatstadt meines Mannes gezogen. Sobald es mir möglich war, reiste ich gemeinsam mit Georg zu meinen Töchtern Bessie und Lili nach Israel. Hier bin ich mit Georg und seinen Cousinen in Tel Aviv. Meine Mutter, Bessie und Lili wollten in Israel bleiben. Georg wuchs in Wien auf. Nach der Matura studierte er in Israel Psychologie und nahm den Namen Zwibar David an. Er heiratete und bekam 2 Töchter und einen Sohn. Somit lebte meine ganze Familie in Israel. Ich besuchte sie regelmäßig. Hier bin ich mit meinen Enkeltöchtern, richtigen Sabras.
Von Berlin nach Budapest, von Tel Aviv nach Wien. Rosa Rosenstein hat Geschichte nicht nur erlebt, sondern gelebt. Von der Kaiserzeit bis zur Weimarer Republik. Vom Aufstieg der Nazis bis zum Überleben im belagerten Budapest. Ein neues Leben, beginnend neben dem Erwachsenwerden ihrer Töchter in Israel. Anlässlich ihres 90. Geburtstags. Rosa Rosensteins Familie kam aus der ganzen Welt angereist, um sie zu feiern. Und man feierte sie jährlich bis zum Jahr 2005, in dem sie im Alter von 98 Jahren verstarb.
Okie doke. All right. That is the film of Rosa Rosenstein. So why don't you put in the chat? I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can see people's faces. It's kind of wigging me out that I can't see anyone's faces. You all know how that is. I know you do. Why don't you put in the chat any responses to the film that you have, any themes or ideas? How might you use this? Any sort of response so we can get a little discussion going maybe. Okay, to be honest, it's going to be one way. I'm probably going to do most of the talking, but I'd love to have your input. Anyone? It's interesting that they say she stayed in Budapest. Well, she ended up in Vienna with the second husband, but yeah. Let's see. Teens would want to know the details of her survival. You're assuming it's in the written text. That's right. And one of the things I want to mention is, particularly I think with high school students, and I've seen some standard, teaching standards that talk about comparing secondary and primary sources. So you certainly could have them read the interview or those parts of the interview that are covered, since the interviews are long, and then see how the story was shaped, because the film was shaped to make it an interesting story. I mean, we chose the most interesting stories, but it's still storytelling, right? Not all of those photos were hers. As I was watching, I wanted to point that out too. Some of them were stock photos, but many of them were, and I think the text pointed out, here I am with it, et cetera, et cetera. So that's really clear. And that would be a fascinating discussion of, just sources, an ability to analyze the sources that are involved in making a film like that, which I think these films really, they engage you, they pull you in. If I may be so bold, I know I worked for Centropa, but I was a teacher first and fell in love with Centropa's stories. And the students really relate to them because they start when the survivor is young. It's really important to us that, we always say it's not enough to teach how Jews were murdered. You have to teach how they lived as well. And one of the things about our films is that we can say to public school teachers, and here's a 10-minute film or a 7-minute film or a 15-minute film where you can do that. This does not require a semester-long course. Let's see. Someone said that the story of the scattering of people, life has to move on. Create a family tree for Spanish class. Oh, very nice. I was noticing also in this film, because I don't watch it as much as the one I usually show, which is really good also, how there's so much upheaval of people who lived during that time. The Jewish stories, I'll speak specifically to the Jewish stories, that's what I know best. Even people who survived returned to their hometowns, and many of them then went and lived someplace else as adults, and then many of them would go back and return, say, to Vienna because they had elderly parents or something. So there was so much displacement, and I think it's such a rich topic that you could explore literature, you can explore lots of history with that topic. So our videos and our stories certainly speak to that. It emphasized how normal her life was. That's right. She was just growing up. She fell in love. There's a love story in there. Concept of survival. People often say that about all of our stories, right? Survival, overcoming tragedy, overcoming loss, overcoming separation from your parents. These are themes that many of our students go through. Experiences many of our students go through. And I know that they're themes that people teach in classes. So again, thinking outside the historical context, and of course as much as you would use these to teach historical context, we support, but it's also possible to use these stories in other contexts. Resilience, made a world from a different time relatable, right? Ed always says we don't make stories for students. We tell human stories, right? And so that's what appeals to them. Let's see. Show students how we're the same. Great way to get the students to relate. Okay. Thank you for putting some things in there. Humanizes history, and the theme of identity, which I think always is a huge topic with any of these stories. So thank you. Thank you very much for thinking that through and putting those ideas in there. So I think what I want to show, I do want to show you one or two more things on the website, just so you can tag them in your head or wherever you're taking notes or whatever. I'm going to share my screen again. Just, yeah. One of the things that we do, because, like I said, the advantage of our database is that it's open source and you can do whatever you need with it based on what you need for your students, right? And we work with people, with teachers in rural North Carolina and inner city Baltimore and Macedonia and Ukraine and Poland and everywhere. So it's interesting to us to see how our resources get used in different cultural contexts, and that's one of the advantages, in my opinion. It's also a little bit challenging because of the time limits of teachers. I don't know if you saw this, but to get to this page, I went to Education and Centropa's education websites. Because what I want to say is one of the things we started to do is gather interview excerpts or films, sometimes essays and links to other websites on certain topics, so that everyone doesn't have to scramble to, start from scratch or reinvent the wheel. And I just want to point out a couple of these websites to you, and then I'm going to actually put you, talk now. We'll move to specifically to women's stories. So we have a website about the November pogrom, which is what Kristallnacht is called in Europe. And each of these websites often has something very unusual and different in addition to excerpts. I guess I'll just use this one as an example. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but I want you to see. And if you ever come upon something that's in another language, just look for the English symbol over somewhere at the top. So we have one of the things. Each of these websites usually has some really interesting, different feature to it. And on this one, I really love this. It really talks about events from the year of 1938 happening in Austria, particularly Vienna, Austria, but also Vienna. And it has a whole timeline of the events starting from early in 1938, which was a watershed year of change in the Holocaust in general, and certainly in Austria, since that's when the Anschluss happened. But what my colleagues did with this, and I thought it was so cool, is that they would have the sort of larger event, the historical event, and then they'll have an excerpt from a Centropa interviewee that somehow relates to that event, that talks about it. And so that's just the feature of this particular website. Not all of the websites don't have something like that. They do all have testimonies from our interviewees. And so this is a good place to get excerpts, right? So if you want to teach about Kristallnacht, this is a good place to come, because you're just going to get you don't have to go to the whole long interview, but you can get the excerpt from our interviewees. And then, of course, it would also link to other places in our website if you wanted to get the photos, or if you wanted to assign this, one student or several students go to this person and they have to research several things, all the links would be there. And that will be the case on the new website as well. So all of these education type websites, I'm just going back to make it, hopefully it's easier. Oops, it's not easier. Will have testimonies. And they'll have, some sort of feature. I want to point out the Holocaust in Hungary website, because I think it's something that's not taught enough in American schools. Super interesting history and story. And one of the features here is that we have a wedding photo from one of our interviewees. And if you put your cursor over the different people, it tells what happened to them. You could do a really great activity with that. So I want to just point out that we have these websites. Oh, and I'll just tell you this. If you teach anything about the fall of communism, Ed was there, and he took photos, beautiful black and white photos, and this website will take you to those, many of those photos. Okay, that's a little indulgent, but what I want to do is, any questions? How are we doing on questions or whatever? No questions. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you stories about women and what I've put together for you, Centropa Stories of Women. I actually created a Google Classroom, and I'm going to put the link to the Google Classroom if you want to join it. There's no obligation to, but I think what we found out is, but I am going to ask you to do an activity in a group. So, whoops, there we go. And you'll be able to really easily access it. So there's the link to the Google Classroom, or if you're already, here's the code for the Google Classroom if you want to join it. If you access this, according to what I tested just before we went on, you should be able to download the resources I've put there. But this is what I want to do. I want to show you. Can you see the photo montage? Okay, great. So one of the things I've done is I've created a page. It's actually a 2-pager because of the number of photos, of 18 photos from 18 different women's stories. Each one of these photos has a hyperlink to the page on our website with that photograph. Okay, so I'm going to do it right now, and I'll have to bring it up. This is going to take you to... That's the photo I clicked on, and as I mentioned before, each one of these photos has some text under it. So what I've done is I've created activities and lessons. I've created an activity for you that I'm hoping you can use. You can take it apart, you can use one little part, you can use all of it, you can add to it, whatever. And then at the end of this, I have follow-up research activities that you can do, ideas. So I'm going to talk very briefly about what I'm going to ask you to do. We're going to put you in small breakout groups of about 5 each. And what I'm going to ask you to do is everyone to open this document on your screen. And actually, I think in case you don't do the Google Classroom, I think I do have a link to that document. So give me a second. Yeah. This is the photo montage. I'm calling it a montage. I think that's the right word. There's a link to it. You should be able to download it from there, even if you're not in the Google Classroom. So
I'm sorry, we can't get into the Google Classroom. The link before is the, I think, the wrong link.
It is? What did you see?
The link under Google Classroom leads us back to the bibliography of women, the collections.
Oh, yeah.
Oh no. Okay. All right. So
You can join the Google Classroom just in the traditional way, just by hitting the plus sign and asking to join a class.
Okay, cool.
That's what you wanted.
Thank you.
But it might be good to do the.
Wait a minute, but I gave Zoe, I gave you a link, didn't I?
Yes.
That seemed to have worked. So I'm gonna put this in there. Maybe I gave you just now the wrong link. So if so,
because mine was a Google Drive link. Hang on one minute.
Yes. Is that better? Sorry about that, everyone. I don't use this quite as often as you do in your classrooms, and I'm still learning. Is that better? Okay, we're going to assume that's better until I hear otherwise. So you're going to be in groups of 5. Each one of you will choose one photograph. I don't really care how you do it. Choose a different photograph, right? And if you can, choose a facilitator of your group. I've made these instructions as if you're using it with students. The first thing to do, look at the photograph and come up with 3 questions that you have about the photograph. Do not read the text. The goal is to teach students how to generate questions, good questions, and also really, really look closely at a photograph. Then, and this is what you'll do too, read the paragraph underneath, look for this information. I have a student worksheet, which I can send you the link to, but it should be in the Google Classroom. And then once you do that, and you read about them, right? And then you go around the room or the breakout room, and you report back the key information about what you learned about that person. And one of the things I had the students do here is that if, say, one student is reporting about what they learned, the student who's going to go after them has to come up with 3 words about the person that the previous student described. So that's hopefully creating some good listening skills. And then they can generate potentially a word cloud of all of the words that they collected if you wanted them to. But for our purposes, you can skip to here and discuss these analysis questions if you want, etc. And then I have students going back and asking a couple more questions, seeing if they have more questions about their photograph. So that's just overview. I hope I haven't gone through that too quickly, but all of these documents are on the Google Classroom under classwork. Are people able to access it now? No, still not?
No, the code seems to be not working as well. So it says like I can't access it through the code.
Whoa, that makes me so sad. How did it work before though? I tested it with Zoe and she said it worked. Okay.
It worked for me.
So it worked for some people. Okay. Okay. Okay, so everything's theoretically here. I've also created QR codes for each of these photos, et cetera, but I don't want to go into that now. I want to give you guys some time to talk to yourself. So I think, is there anyone who doesn't have the photo montage? That's the most important thing because that's going to take you there. No, everyone has that. So I'm sorry, I see someone's hand raised, but I don't know if you have it or don't have it.
No, that's not the point. I have to leave. I just gave this about an hour and then I have to head out. Okay. So I'm sorry I can't do this, but I'm not teaching this semester anyway. So I just wanted to say that back in 2015, I have Hungarian cousins that reappeared and that we thought had passed. And I actually met Ed, and I think there was another person there, younger woman, at Centropa, and I was really impressed with your organization.
Thank you.
So I just wanted to put that in there.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Are you still based in Austria?
Yes, based in Vienna. I'm in Silver Spring, Maryland, but we're based in Vienna. That's right. Thank you so much. I want to get the teachers moving on here. Okay, so Zoe, why don't you put everyone in a classroom, and let's do this. If for some reason you don't have access to this, maybe you can share among yourselves or log back out into the main room, and we'll help you get the materials you need. So why don't you take like 20 minutes to do this, about quarter of, we'll come back, we'll discuss if any of this worked. You know how it is, you create a lesson and you hope it works. So, and also what you learned about the women, right? What can you walk away with in terms of understanding women's experiences in the Holocaust? So give it a go, Zoe.
All right, so I'm going to put everyone into breakout rooms now. You will see a prompt on your screen just letting you know that you're being brought into a room. If you have any issues, you will have the option to leave the room and come back to where I am. Lauren, you will be in room 5, and if you want to jump from room to room, you can leave the room and I'll put you in a different one.
Thank you so much.
No problem. Okay, and it looks like people are going into their rooms. And everybody who has not joined a room, please join.
Zoe, hi. Karen and I were the only ones in our room, and she can't access the materials because she's on her phone. So we were hoping to be moved to a different room if possible. Can I selfishly be moved to Shauna's room? Whatever room Shauna's in.
Is it Shauna Stein? Can you hear me?
Yes, sorry, yes.
Okay, no problem. Hang on one second. So you are there. Where are you? Okay, move 2. Move 3, okay. No. Sorry, hang on one second.
That's okay.
What just happened?
It's okay if you can't. I'm happy like scrolling through on my own.
Okay, hang on. I don't know why your name just disappeared on our breakout room list. That's why. I see you. Okay, you're going to move room 3.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right. Hi, this is Karen.
Hi.
Hi. Okay. Am I in a breakout room now? Was I moved?
I think you were moved. Hang on one second.
No, that's okay.
So you should have gotten a prompt to join room 3.
To join room 3. Okay. See, I can't open the document on the phone and see everyone at the same time.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. All right. So let me see. Join breakout room 3. Okay. I'll join it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Sorry about that.
No problem.
I don't know who was next.
Yeah, do you need help? I can put you into a room. Hang on one second, Jill.
What? It's not the room. I can't access the pictures or anything.
Hang on one second. Let me see the chat.
Okay.
You can't.
I don't know what I did.
Oh no, it's all right.
I'm that kid.
It's okay. I'm usually that kid. All right. So let's see, Jill. So I'm sending you a direct message with the link now. Hopefully it works. If not, just let me know.
In the chat? Okay.
Yes. And then Lauren, I can move you. Hang on one moment.
I was actually just checking in to see how everything's going here. Can I help in some way?
We have one issue where someone, Jill can't see the pictures, so I just resent the link. Is it working now?
Now it's working.
Great. So let me put you into a room.
I was in room 4.
Okay.
But then I left because I couldn't open anything.
So let me put you into room, I'm going to put you in room 6.
Oh, okay.
All right. So you should have just gotten a prompt.
Okay.
All right. So I'm not sure what's going on. The link works for me.
All right. You need a Google account. Yeah, and I forgot. Like I said, I did it this summer, and then I haven't really done it since. And I forgot to say, you need some sort of Google account. And even sometimes school accounts that are Google accounts don't work.
Okay.
Some people have to go to their personal Google account, and I'd forgotten that that's a snafu.
It looks like someone's being admitted now.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I froze and got kicked out.
It's okay. I can put you into a breakout room. Hang on 1 second.
I was in 3. I'm sorry.
3? No problem.
I'm having trouble logging in too. Hi, Miss Remain.
You're having trouble logging in? Oh. Do you have a Google account?
Yeah. I tried joining the class, but it's not letting me join the class either for some reason. So I don't know. It says joining, but I've been joining for the last many minutes. It's not.
I just tried it again. You should have just got another prompt.
Okay, let me see. Thank you.
Maybe it's because everyone's doing it once.
Possibly. No, she just got in. Not sure what's going on.
Oh, well, I guess it's bound to happen, right?
Right.
Okay. Okay, I really wanted to just check and see how things were going.
Yeah, I think everything's good now. Everybody should be in their rooms. These 3. At least,
you know, but
inactive. That's possibly what's happening.
I don't know about these other 2. Okay. All right. So we'll see what happens. You know, all you can do is try.
Yeah.
And we'll stop it at 5:45. That should be enough time to get a little sort of discussion and feedback and question answer. Do you want time at the end? So you want me to end at 5:55?
Honestly, 2 minutes at the end would be enough.
Okay.
Yeah, so I, of course, forgot when I handed things over to you to go over the 3 things, but that'll actually be better at the end. So 2 minutes.
Oh, I am so sorry. You wanted to do it at the beginning.
No, it wasn't you at all. It was me. I was going through my list and I just skipped it. So at the end, I'll just get everybody I'll just give them the 3 events. It had nothing to do with you. I completely forgot myself.
No, I really thought you wanted to do it at the end because that's usually
I think it'll work better that way. We'll do it at the end.
Okay. Is there anything like, I just never know. Am I talking too fast? Like, have I missed, like, did I skip over something not make sense or?
Oh, you're doing incredible. I think it's going great.
It's just crazy. I really don't like talking on the computer.
I know, it's such a different, I hate to use the word, but a vibe. It's just a different environment.
Like a dead vibe. It's like dead. It's like that. So I guess since some people can't access that activity,
I put them in rooms with people that can. So hopefully.
Yeah, but I want them to have the materials. So I'm pretty sure I have links to each of those documents in the Google Drive so that they don't have to join the Google Classroom, but they go to the Google Drive.
Okay.
Here, like this.
Let's see. Okay, let's see.
And actually, I have 2 more. It's just better if they join Google Classroom because it's all there.
So it brings you right to the worksheet.
Right. It kind of bypasses Google Classroom. I mean, truthfully, I prefer they join the Google Classroom. That helps me. I feel like I put in days worth of work for this. It's reasonable that we get their email address to send them updates on what we're doing. I think that's a good, reasonable quid pro quo.
Yeah.
But I also don't want to, just say, well, I don't know. If you can't get in, you can't get in. I don't know what to do about that.
What I can do, I can definitely have everybody at the end put in their name and email address into the chat. And then Sarah has email addresses for everybody, so I can get that list from her as well.
Yeah, they'll need a Google email address to get into that classroom.
Yeah.
So I'll show them the rest of what's there in case that might motivate them, I guess, a little bit. Doesn't really matter, but it's not, a little bit nicer. And okay, great. I think let's see, did that. Okay.
So I'm going to let everybody know that they have 10 minutes.
Great. And, I guess you might as well throw me in a class, in a group. I just as soon hear what they're talking about.
Okay.
if you don't mind.
No problem at all. So we
Thank you.
our breakout rooms, broadcasting that, and I'll put you in room 1.
Thank you.
Where are you? There we go. Okay.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
I'm trying to get back into the classroom. Is there any way you could send me the link so that I could look at the documents? Or do you have like the pictures? I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. Hang on one second.
That's all right.
I can email or send you a message directly.
Okay. Will I be able to see it? That's the thing. Once I'm in the breakout, I don't think it carries to that.
Hang on one second. Let me see. This will bring you to the teacher packet. So I'm going to share a link to you directly.
Okay, perfect. Will it have both the documents?
What was that?
Both of them? Both the pictures and the questions?
Hang on one second. Let's see.
Okay.
Try that.
Okay. Okay, perfect. I got the whole... Wait, let me see. So the pictures, no, I don't see the pictures. Are they in the packet? Yeah.
Hang on.
Okay.
Not that. Okay, so this one I'm going to send you right now. Should bring you to the pictures.
Okay, perfect. Let me see. Because once I move from here, let me see. Perfect. I got it. I hope that, okay.
I apologize. We only have like a minute left in the rooms.
All right.
Just put you into a room, but we only have a
No, I was in room 3. All right. That's all right. I'll hold on. That's okay. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Bear with me for like a minute and then we'll
no problem.
Back.
Okay.
Okay, and the breakout room should be closing up now, so just hang on 1 minute.
Sorry, are we all back? I can't hear you.
Everybody should be coming back now, and the breakout rooms are closed.
All right, great. Thank you so much. All right, I hope everyone was able to access some version of the documents. If not, please, I'd love for you to find a way to join the Google Classroom, because what I'm going to actually share with you, sorry, bad teaching. Okay, I'm going to step back. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you about your experience doing the activity. I am not here to just for you to say this is a great activity. Please don't do that. I'm really interested in what did you learn about using photographs and short texts for teaching these stories? What spoke to you about any part of this activity that you feel like you can use going forward? And put it in the chat, and we'll talk about that very briefly. And I'm gonna have to wrap up really quickly, actually. I'm sorry for not giving you more time. That was on me. Okay. And if you can, I don't know if you can see, I put those questions in the chat. But anything you can share about the power of using the photographs, the power of just asking questions. I learned that from a Teacher of the Year from Connecticut this summer. I took a webinar with him, and he talked about showing a photograph and just having students generate a lot of questions and then sharing the best question. And then he would never even give them any answers to what they were looking at in the photograph. It was just about asking questions, because of what he made a really great point. Being able to ask questions and think critically like that is a cornerstone of democracy and being a good citizen. And so I like to incorporate those things. It would be helpful to recap the biography link on the right side of the screen to extend the initial paragraphs. I don't know what that means. Recap the biography link?
So I think that's like in our group, at least, that biography link on the right-hand side that says biography, whatever, that's where you find the entire story of that person.
Yeah.
So I think people were still hungry for information, and maybe that biography link wasn't seen right away. It's way over there on the right, and it's smaller.
I see. Well, right. So I chose a very short entree into these stories, right? This activity, or even a small version of it, even the first part of it or a little part of whatever, you could use to start a Holocaust unit and just get students interested and then veer off into a whole nother direction, right? And at the bottom of that sheet that says activity, lessons, and projects, I have half a dozen research projects that you could go on to do that would use the full interview, that would use the film. I want you to remember every single one of those 18 women we have films for. So students you can create any kind of activity using all of these resources. And in the Google Classroom, one of the things that I've done is uploaded direct links to all of them. So, for example, for Marianne Samozi from Hungary, I don't know if anyone looked at her photograph, you'll have a direct link to her full interview, you'll have a direct link to all of her photographs, you'll have a direct link to her film, and you'll have a link. I think there's even a website, that Holocaust in Hungary website might have an excerpt from her interview. I don't remember if that's the case. But I have uploaded direct links to any resource you might have for that woman. And in the Google Classroom, the way I've organized them is according to their Holocaust experience. And it's a little dicey to do that because many had different experiences. But if you're looking for stories of women in camps, I put the women who had camp experiences there. I put the women who had ghetto experiences, etc. And so that's how it's divided. So I'm hoping you'll join the Google Classroom, partly so I can keep in touch with you. I expect to be adding things over the course of the year. I'm doing these Herstories webinars. I have several more to do, so you'll be in touch with teachers from many different places around the country, including Canada, I think. And people will be able to chat and ask for resources and questions. Let's see. The activity was good to get a quick snapshot of different stories during the same time frame. And one of the things we really want to do is complicate students' understanding of what the Holocaust was. It wasn't just in Germany. It wasn't just in Poland, right? And Centropa is a fantastic resource for that. Okay, great. Connect pictures. Okay, I'm going to have to end. I want to say I am happy to be in touch with anyone, and I will, if you've signed up for the Google Classroom, I will continue to communicate with you, and I'm going to update some of these documents. I'm glad you're finding the usefulness of the photos. That's really important. And I have created, say you don't have computers in your classroom or you're working with teachers, I've created the same photo worksheet except with QR codes so that you can just get to the same links, the photo and the text via the QR codes. So that's also there as well. I do want to just say one more thing and hand the mic, so to speak, over to Chloe. Centropa has ongoing webinars mostly these days. And every summer we bring teachers to the great cities of Central Europe. We bring usually 25 U.S. teachers. We haven't gone in 2 years, but next year we're planning for Berlin. So I hope you'll keep in touch with us. And in the meantime, one of the things I wanted to really do is offer teachers an opportunity just to connect with one another. So I'm going to put in the chat, we have something that we call Cafe Centropa. And Cafe Centropa is basically 90 minutes. We get online. It's always on a weekend because we're working with Israeli teachers and teachers on the west coast of the U.S. get online, and we put you in 2 30-minute breakout groups with teachers from other countries, and you just talk about whatever you want. We'll usually start with maybe an introduction to some new resource or something like that, but it's super fun. You get to meet teachers, you get to talk to people from, Serbia or Macedonia and talk about what's happening with COVID. So we hope you join us. We have one coming up on Sunday, November 7th, one on Saturday, December 4th. And I guess I'll just stop there so that Zoe has enough time. Any questions? Besides, was there a sign-in sheet for this session? I didn't offer a sign-in sheet, but I would love to, if you could, I'm hoping to get your email addresses so you can just get our very infrequent newsletters. And we're also on Facebook. If you want to follow us on Facebook, I don't know if you're on Facebook, but that's where you can learn about our stuff as well. And I'm happy to answer any questions. You have my email address. Thank you. Thanks, Zoe. Thanks, Elise.
No
Dara, Sarah.
Thank you. We want to thank you especially for taking time out of your busy schedule to meet with us all tonight and talk to us about this important programming and your resources. So thank you so much. Before we just conclude tonight, I just want to thank you all again. And I want to make you aware of some upcoming events that we have this week. Tomorrow on Wednesday, October 13th, we have a virtual event via Zoom at 4:30 again. This is With Me Here Are 6 Million Accusers. This is the Eichmann trial in Jerusalem. So a very informative presentation. On Thursday, the 14th, we have global responses to the Holocaust from Europe to Asia at 4:30 via Zoom. On Friday, a little different, we have a pre-service teacher conference, Inclusive Strategies for a Return to School. So it's actually a conference. It's taking place from 8:45 a.m. to 12 p.m. via Zoom. If you are interested in attending any of these virtual events, please reach out to us via email. Sarah Kuykendall of the Holocaust Resource Center can provide any and all information. And what I'm going to ask before you sign off, just put your name and your email address in our chat. We want to get a good list of all the participants and have your contact information. Great. Thank you so much, everybody. I hope you have a lovely night. And of course, if you have any questions at all, we are available via email.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good evening. Take care of yourselves out there. I know it's a tough year.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye, my students. I'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Hi, Karen.
Bye. Bye.
Hi, Lauren.
Bye. Hi.
How are you?
I'm hanging in there. How are you doing?
Doing well. Doing well.
Good.
We definitely have to catch up.
Yeah, let's do that. Oh, did you email me about that? I think you did. I'll follow up.
I did.
Okay. Sorry about that.
No. That's fine. Another night.
Yeah. Oh, we were going to do it today. That's right. I forgot. We could do that.
I asked if it would be okay, but if it's not, then we can do it another time.
I'm a little beat. Let me text you. Email you.
Yep, sounds good.
Thanks. I've been on computers all day. Have a good evening.
Thank you. You too. Be well.
Thanks, guys. That was great, Lauren. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Sure. It was so fun to put together. I have to be honest. And I'm very excited about where we can take this in terms of very concrete things ways teachers can use the material.
Yeah. I like the idea of what they were saying with the pictures, that like the students are used to using pictures to tell stories since that's what they do in their daily life. So I do think it's kind of cool. Last year, my son had to, not related to the Holocaust, but my son for his honors world history class, he had to create an Instagram account of an absolute leader. They were doing like absolute monarchs, and they had a bunch to pick from, and they had to make an Instagram account for that absolute monarch.
Yeah. Who did he choose?
He did Louis XIV, and he had to have like people that said things against him. He had to have other monarchs that would comment for him. Like he had to include a whole slew of stuff. And it was actually a really neat And it was a little different, obviously, because there are no there's only a few handful of pictures. So they had to be creative in their thought process. But it is kind of cool to think about how they could do that with all the variety of pictures that you have.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to do,
Yeah. It was actually a really good, and he was really creative. Like he had a peasant do a descent to something, and then he had it, this has been blocked he had this comment has been blocked by the user. So like to show that they would, so it was actually,
That's really
a very creative assignment. And it speaks to the kids today because they know how to do that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. We will be in touch. You don't have the dates yet of the CSA, do you? No.
No.
Just as soon as you do, obviously, we send out our mailings. So of course, and we have money budgeted still.
Oh,
so,
great. Okay. I'll get on ad on that because I do. Oh, you know what? That's a really good question because we had to write a claims conference, proposal, budget